even if Hudson hated Christian, in June '84, when Hudson learned he had AIDS, he had a duty to warn him. Why? Well, aside from the fact that he had no right to kill him, what if, as a result of their continued sexual activity, Christian contracted the virus, their affair broke up, and Christian infected somebody else? Somebody Hudson didn't know. That person then got the bug and infected somebody else, and on and on. Hudson had a duty to warn.
Tell me why you're proud of the law on this thing. So what? What are we? How are we better as a result of this? That's not an angry question. I really want to know.
I think a message has gone out all over the world by this verdict, and I think the message is an important one. It is that anyone who has AIDS has a duty to warn anyone whom he may infect, and if he doesn't, this is what can happen to him.
Even if the consenting partner doesn't get AIDS?
Yes. And that's what makes the case one of first impression.
Uh-huh. So the law allows punitive damages not only to people who are killed by a drunk driver, for example, but would allow punitive damages to the passengers in the back seat of a car driven perilously by a drunk driver, even though there was no wreck and nobody got killed, because they were in terror and subjected to this. How do you feel about my metaphor?
No, your metaphor is not acceptable under the law. You're talking about a case of negligence. When someone deliberately does what Mark Miller and Rock Hudson did, they put his life at risk, but not only his life, Christian's life. Christian could, without knowing it, have infected other people. They, in turn, could have infected other people. And when you get infected with this bug, as you know, it means you have to put your house in order. What they did was, under the words of the law, was deplorable, it was reprehensible, it was outrageous. That is not like the fellow who drives a car because he's had one too many drinks. These two men knew what they were doing, but they did it anyway. They just didn't give a damn how many people they killed.
Also, we don't know that I don't have AIDS because of the incubation period. And I've talked with doctors very recently who now believe that sexually transmitted AIDS
may take longer to bloom?
May take longer because the virus can lodge itself in body tissues, not get into the bloodstream where it can be picked up by tests.
By the way, it's very different from herpes. In the case where a wife gets herpes from her husband, for example, there are cases where she has sued him because he didn't want her
my
to have
story
it.
said that she didn't get it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't matter. That isn't going to kill you. You can get syphilis. You can get it's cured by a shot in the butt in 10 minutes. Gonorrhea. But the problem with AIDS is it can kill you. And if suddenly you realize you've been intimate with someone for a couple of years and that person had AIDS and didn't tell you 8 months before, and you realize, I'm going to die, there's no way that he could have not got the disease.
Do you think a doctor to whom the AIDS victim had gone for treatment could be in some future way liable for not blowing the whistle and breaking the confidentiality of the doctor-patient relationship?
There's no question about it. The answer is an emphatic yes. The doctor has got to tell someone who could, look, if you get AIDS...
Suppose I go to a shrink and I say, you know, Roy, I'm blue, and the reason is I got AIDS.
No.
Well, what's the difference?
Here's the difference.
What's the difference?
If you've got AIDS, you don't have to hold a press conference and you don't have to tell your mailman. But you've got to tell someone whom you may kill, like a sexual partner. And it doesn't make any difference whether it's a wife, a lover, a prostitute. You just can't kill somebody because you don't want to tell them. That is the difference.
Let me understand this now. Tell me how you can nail the doctor.
Oh, I'll tell you how you can nail the doctor. If the doctor tells the AIDS patient, don't tell your lover because
No. Let's assume that Rock Hudson went to a doctor. He obviously did. He went to a doctor. They close the door. The doctor's with the stethoscope and the white coat and all that, and he, you know, and he tells the doctor his condition. They do the blood, and he says, "You've got it." Under what circumstances would the doctor be obliged to notify, for example, Marc Christian about his lover's physical condition?
The doctor had better tell if he knows there is a Marc Christian, the victim's wife or a boyfriend, doesn't matter who it is.
Boy,
if he
you
knows,
are really in Wawa land now. There goes, you look, you know, this is, I'm not kidding, this is, what happened to confidentiality?
look, the doctor doesn't have to tell you. He doesn't have to tell the press. But he's got to tell someone, because by not telling, that other person might die. And that other person might then infect many people. It's a question of balancing the obligation.
Yeah, but the epidemiologists are going to say all you do with this is discourage people with AIDS from seeking medical treatment.
I don't think you do at all.
And you also scare the hell out of doctors who are already enraged by the lawsuits and malpractice and all the rest of it.
This has nothing to do with malpractice against a doctor. In this case, we could have named doctors, and I thought of doing it. I chose not to. I didn't because I had information that a certain doctor, whose name I won't mention, told Hudson, "You'd better not tell your lover, because it might upset him." But I have that information only from Marc Miller, the secretary. And since I cannot believe Marc Miller, I couldn't in good conscience serve the doctor.
Also, what if a criminal comes into a lawyer's office? You have the confidentiality between a lawyer and his client. What if he comes in and announces he's going to murder somebody at the grocery store?
Then the lawyer has a responsibility to notify.
Right.
That's true.
It's
Why
the same
is it any
morality.
different with the doctor?
If he knows there's a sexual partner. If he doesn't know, there's no harm done for the doctor.
Does the doctor have to tell the guy's wife when he reports in with herpes? What's the difference? Now, okay, I know one's fatal and what is it, but, you know, unlike love, herpes is forever. I mean, why wouldn't the doctor have the same obligation to tell the wife? You see what I mean?
It's a question of where you're going to draw the line. Herpes can't kill you, but AIDS can. And that is the difference.
One more thing before this audience gets in here. The Rock Hudson estate doesn't have $21 million.
Doesn't need it. There's insurance. The beneficiaries under...
What is he, what insurance? Household insurance? The man is deceased.
He has liability insurance.
He does.
I know
Which is
that.
extant even posthumously. Is that how we say this?
Oh, yes.
And $7 million of the 21 is against Marc Miller.
Yeah.
Who promises you he doesn't have $7 million. He's already on record as worth about 100 G's.
He's on record, but there may be a difference of opinion as to what he's worth, but it isn't going to matter. He has insurance. You can't have insurance for punitive and exemplary damages, but in this case, there is insurance. I'll tell you why if you want to know.
No, we believe you.
Okay.
Incidentally, you should know this vote by the jury was 10-2 in a civil case, California. Now wait. One of the dissenters agreed that he was entitled to damages, but wanted a lower amount, 3 or 6 million or something. So we had only one juror who thought he shouldn't get anything. Do I understand?
No.
You don't even know that?
2, I do know it. 2 of the 10 wanted a verdict between 3 million and 10 million.
I am corrected. So all of them agreed that Mr. Christian deserved some compensation or punitive damage or whatever it is, and but there were 2 who dissented from the
Yes,
point.
and some of the jurors wanted 20 million. Therefore, they compromised somehow at 14.5.
Came up with 14 and 7.
14.5 for compensatory.
Right.
Then there was another phase of the case involving
7 million
only
for
Miller.
punitive.
Only against Miller.
Uh-huh. Is he covered?
He is. He doesn't. Yes, he sure is.
Well,
Because
I can't wait to huh?
His insurance company never offered in settlement the full amount of the policy.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're liable. If they want to gamble in a trial, they gamble with their own money.
And they did, in fact. You offered to settle. They offered to settle the case on the courthouse steps for 900 G's. And they said no. And the verdict was 21 million. How'd you like to be a lawyer? And we'll be back in just a moment.